Hello, good evening. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Dev and I'm the Associate Marketing Manager of Big Innovation Center India. Today we are presenting implementing blockchain in financial transactions and just a little housekeeping before we get started. In case during presentation, if any of you have any questions, please write it, text it in the control panel of GoToWebinar. There is a question box, and we will address those questions during Q&A session. Also, after the presentation, we have a dedicated time for question and answer sessions. So let me take this opportunity to introduce our moderator and speaker for today's webinar. Um, let's start with our moderator for the day, Mr. Jay Subburao Jayanti. Subburao Jayanti is a thought leader who has assisted companies to reach new horizons that put them on par with the rapidly evolving innovative technology sector. He focuses on ideas that affect new age societal and sustainability challenges to be solved with innovative entrepreneurial responses to them. Mr. Jay specializes in corporate innovation, emerging technologies, disruptive innovation, new digital business model, and digital transformation. Mr. Jay is also the founder and CEO of Growth Grids Advisory and Consulting, which nurtures startups and supports established corporate organizations with the innovative sectors in India and in Australia and New Zealand region. Welcome, Subburao Jain.
Thank you.
Moving forward to our speaker of the day, we are going to start with Mr. Fernando, who is our expert, and Mr. Fernando is the strategic leader of the all-party parliamentary group on blockchain and the Blockchain for Government Council. He possesses 12 years of experience in project management and technology application planning. He holds a master's in logistics and supply chain from Cranfield University and master engineering, civil engineering from Alfonso El Salvio University and a bachelor of engineering in civil construction at Salamanca University. Also executive education from IESC Business School and is a certified as Prince 2 practitioner. We welcome you, Mr. Fernando. We have our excuse me. We have our second speaker, Mr. Anuj, who is from IBM. Mr. Anuj is a visionary IT leader and blockchain evangelist working on leading technologies for the last 19 years. He has vast experience in IT solutions, designing and development, service delivery, process reengineering, account management, transformation, client management, etc. His achievement includes building Japan IoT in India from scratch and achieving 400 plus FTE live in a short time. Mr. Anuj has a keen interest in blockchain technology and is an IBM certified blockchain consultant. He has successfully designed several blockchain applications on Hyperledger and Ethereum platforms. He is also a blockchain coach and has trained hundreds of technology professionals in this revolutionary technology. And currently, he is working on developing an end-to-end blockchain-based technology solution in the medical domain and education sector. Welcome, Mr. Anuj. Our final speaker of this session, Mr. Vikrant. Mr. Vikrant, a professional with 30 years of cross-functional multicultural experience in banking and financial services in the areas of fintech, startups, risk management, NPA management, profit center management, strategy implementation, operations, quality assurance, compliance, and client service. Mr. Vikrant is a strategic thought leader recognized for innovation, strategy, and sweeping improvements to efficiency. Having worked in NBFCs, private banks, multinational banks, cooperative banks, and consults AIFs and small finance banks and microfinance institutions, thus covering the entire spectrum. I'll take again this opportunity to welcome our moderator and speakers for today's session. Over to you, Mr. Jay.
Thank you, Debojit. Thank you for introducing, and I welcome all the participants for this evening's presentation of the webinar. This is the part of the webinar series that we are, as announced last month, that we are going to conduct on the blockchain. So going forward, the blockchain webinar series are going to be a monthly event on the specific sectors as we go forward. And we thank you for showing interest and participating in this webinar. So we also advocate to send your interests so that we can able to assertively take on such topics in the forthcoming webinar series. As Dev has introduced all of us, it is my privilege and honor to have very varied experts with you know uh, highly demandable experience, Mr. Anuj Garg from IBM Global Services, and Fernando, my colleague from BIC UK, and Mr. Vikrant, who is a veteran in the banking sector. He happened to nurture multiple banks in India. So it's my honor, and I think all of you will also really enjoy today's evening session. The session is scheduled for 90 minutes. However, we would like to intend to address as many as questions that you may have post the session at the end. So I welcome all of you once again, and thank you for joining us in this evening's webinar series. Now, at BIC India, our endeavor is to really advocate, educate, and help and navigate organization and individuals in adopting emerging technologies. Big Innovation UK has taken a mandate that we will be the biggest and largest thought leadership think tank by 2025 in the world for the emerging technologies, specifically in AI, blockchain, and cybersecurity. So it's our privilege to really have such series to be conducted in India also, though we are young to start with in India. But today's session is mainly, going to be focused on adopting blockchain as a solution, which is a critical step towards accepting digital transformation globally. So, how Big Innovation Center, India, and UK think what it would really entice and then offer to us, because we know emerging technologies will have challenges in adaptation. So my colleague Mr. Fernando has a lot of bitter experiences of implementing blockchain as a use case. But Mr. Anuj from IBM and Vikrant, who are the practitioners of the technology, could able to throw case and share their experiences of possibilities of implementing the framework of blockchain. So without not taking much of a time, today's agenda would be is to discuss on the fundamentals of banking and financial sectors, and inclusive of financial institutions. We will also try and touch upon a bit on how the global trade is going to benefit of adaptation of blockchain, and what would be the changing ecosystems that we may see in the next 3 to 5 year span. That is one core theme. We thought we will request our experts to share their knowledge. And secondly, we would like to experience and then see how the future of banking and financial services look alike in specific to India, because we have seen after demonetization, the faster adaptation was initiated. Now with this pandemic in accelerated the adaptation of digital transformation to a greater extent. So in that purview, I think Mr. Vikrant, as a practitioner and a thought leader for the BFSI sector, could able to enlighten us more. And on the technology perspective, Mr. Anuj Garg will give his thoughts also. So that's excellent. And Fernando has created global use cases for complex solutions relating to financial sector. So I think it's going to be very interesting. Some of you are from the financial sector, some of you might be from banking sector, some of you are from, academics. Whatever the faculty of the presence that you are joining, I think today's panel of our experts will try to answer as much as possible. So, without not really losing any time, I would like to really pose one. Uh, to start with, I would like to pose a question to Mr. Vikrant and Fernando. According to you, how does blockchain support decentralization of banking sector? Because when we talk about blockchain, it is decentralization. So, how does the banking sector will view the decentralizing banking system per se in India? Mr. Vikrant, to start with, then Mr. Fernando will follow it up.
Thank you, Mr. Jay. I mean, simplistically talking, most of us know that today most of the financial institutions are on a core banking solution, and what it means, it's a single operating system with a centralized database. Now, with the growing challenges that we have and the open API architecture that is there, we all understand that bankers have to wear different hats at different times now. And gone are the days when banking was more of a transactional based banking where people would come into a bank, visit, and there were a certain set of things that were being done. Today, banking has to be deeply engraved into the overall ecosystem of a person, and it has to be the lifeline for anything and everything that a person does, whether it is ordering anything online, shopping online, or transacting or communicating the entire. So wherever there is exchange of any fund out there, that is where banking has actually enveloped the overall life of a person. And therefore, traditional banking, the core banking software that we have, there are a lot of limitations that they would have where it is a central database. And therefore, blockchain is a technology with a distributed ledger, and therefore, it is easier to give a better customer experience based on the distributed ledger system that we have. More importantly, it also helps in making all the transactions a bit more secure, because though there is a distributed ledger, there is a single source of truth with an authentication by each of the node participant out there. So that is one element of a blockchain. The second element of a blockchain would also mean it's a smart contract. Now, when you say a smart contract, anything that has to be completed on a specific execution is a contract. And therefore, if you look at it, banking traditionally has been nothing but a execution of a contract where on a certain thing happening, y thing would happen. So if you look at the enabling technology of blockchain, it actually is a best possible fit from the banking technology. Now, the third important aspect of blockchain, as we all know, from a Bitcoin perspective, is a cryptocurrency. So rather than the physical money being handled and the cost of printing of money and handling money, cryptocurrencies definitely are here to change, a game changer when it comes to the transactional part of banking, the chalan part. When we say money is a chalan
Yeah.
that can be transacted, that moves from one hand to another. So that
Mm.
transition part of money is something which is greatly enabled by blockchain. So from this
Mm.
perspective, it is I would say a complete 180-degree difference from what traditional bankers have been thinking about a centralized database to a distributed ledger from it. And this is, I mean, I would say this is more like a pseudo technical. But for
Mm.
example, if I were to give the examples in banking, it would mean that now we have this RERA account coming in, RERA laws coming in, where on
Mhm.
completion of a certain stage, X amount has to be released to the developer in view of the development agreement and contract that you have. Now, this would be a perfect use case that once certain thing happens, automatically the money has to be disbursed. So that's a smart contract which is being executed. Or when we look at you know, from when you look at from a Chalan perspective, say for example the loyalty points that are there for the customers. Now these could again be a great example where there is an international exchange of the funds out there. Now look at the trade finance, wherein, you know, on certain submission of documents, on execution of contract, on shipping the goods, the money is to be sent. So wherever there has been a delay in the overall process, blockchain would eliminate that, and there would be a lot of efficiencies coming in. That is how I would sum it up simplistically.
Yeah.
Over to you, Jay.
No, absolutely, Vikrant. See, we are all traditionally conducting, global trade and global business. How, in my view, how an escrow account is different than conducting, blockchain-based, decentralized, because escrow account is also more or less qualifies what you have said. So how do you think blockchain is going to be anywhere different than becoming transparent and traceable?
Let me try and explain this with another example. Now, escrow account is different from blockchain, you're right, but escrow account is a via media we have found because possibly we don't have a blockchain enabled processes in place today. Malke, let me give you another example. Now, let's look at a scenario where there is a supply chain mechanism in place. Now, we all know as bankers, we rather would love to fund a transaction where the sale is completed. So rather than giving a cash credit limit or a term loan facility to a customer, we rather would give him a bill discounting facility. Now, in such a scenario, the moment a sale or an invoice is generated, it is on a distributed ledger where without intervention, we eliminate the risk of frauds that are happening out there. At the moment an invoice is raised, the same can be taken up for discounting, and once the payment is being made by the vendor, the same can be settled against the bill discounted out there. So today we know that keeping a manual track of the bill discounting is such a tedious thing, and plus we need to get a confirmation from the vendors, on the suppliers, and a lot of things. So blockchain would eliminate all of these things because there's a single source of truth, and upon having an incident, upon a supply, upon an invoice being generated, the same then gets moved forward into the next stage of bill discounting. Then comes the payment, then comes the settlement, and so on and so forth. So I'm trying to give you a simple example of a supply chain sort of a scenario. The same would happen even in the international trade, and more so on the cross-border transactions also.
Hmm. Okay. No, thank you so very much for your illicit explanation, Vikrant. I think there are many things to be learned while implementing the same decentralizing the banking sector. Now, I request my colleague Mr. Fernando to really give his thoughts, because BIC in UK is participating as a secretariat to the Parliament in UK in implementing or evaluating the use cases of adaptation of blockchain in the central banking system also. So my question to you, Fernando, how governance is protected and implemented in decentralizing banking sector?
Hello, Jay. Thank you very much, first of all, for having me here today. Yeah, following your question and following Vikram's presentation, I would like to just explain what's here from Big Innovation Center as a think tank and a management consulting we are seeing about this implementation of blockchain in the banking system. Now, from our point of view, we consider blockchain basically is bringing an opportunity to the banking system and the financial system to rethink the whole system itself. No, basically, we consider there are two areas where these have to be rethinked. No, this new technology is going to impact. There is an area is how the way the money works. No, the way the money rails works, now from moving money from one side of the world to another side of the world. And another area where we consider it can have a huge impact, blockchain technology in the traditional banking, is in the system itself. Now, some of the banking now at the moment have really a slow system, inefficient, and sometimes physical system. Taking in consideration then some of the software that are in the servers of the bank It's writing in a language that was developed in the 1950s. It's a huge opportunity. Blockchain presents a huge opportunity for the traditional banking system to upgrade the system and to rethink how everything works. No? The potential is huge. I mean, we don't have any gap in that. No, the potential, we have seen the potential in many areas. The potential of tokenization of assets is really huge. No? But coming back to the previous point, let's rethink how the money works. No, let's have a think how blockchain can impact in this. No, one of the main areas is the correspondent banking. No, basically where blockchain can have an impact. No, sending money from one side to another side of the world nowadays usually is slow and usually is costly. No, that is because we can send money from one side to the world to another side of the world based in banking relations. I mean, because one bank here in the UK, where I live, have a relation with a bank in India, they have an agreement, and we can send money between both banks. Basically, it's based in relations. What is blockchain technology? Blockchain technology could be again changing on this, because allowed to move liquidity from one side of the world to another side of the world in an immediately way, reducing the cost. No, you are seeing this ability to move value not only faster but really cheap at the moment. No, this is one area we consider the traditional banking is going to be impacted by blockchain, and there is another area. No, and there is another area. The people who is involved in blockchain have heard about is decentralized finance. Decentralized finance in 2020 have a huge trend where investments in around the world was around 11 million in decentralized finance. Decentralized finance is no more than the use of smart contracts in the top of on the blockchain layer. No, as my previous speaker mentioned, decentralized finance has the potential to disrupt the mainstream financial service such as lending, asset trading, payment service, insurance, by operating with a central authority. No, we are removing the central authority, the centralization of the system. No, we are taking a centralized system and put it in a distributed way.
Yeah.
But we are seeing this investment, but this investment, I mean, basically is generating some barriers at the moment. No, there are some barriers we have to overcome to get to this reality. No, we find barriers since the regulatory barriers, where there is not a clear regulatory framework here, where, for example, now the European Union have proposed them. Here in the United Kingdom, we are in the process of consultations to get regulations in terms of crypto assets and decentralized finance. The consultations will be over in March. And some other areas of some economic science are developing this. We need to develop a regulation if we want to bank the benefits of distributed technology. Now, we have many benefits. In fact, we can reduce the intermediaries, people that don't add any value to the system or the final product. We have the potential to remove them from the system. We have the potential to reduce the risk of errors. I mean, the automatization of the transaction will be reduce the risk. We are going to improve the liquidity. I mean, when we take tangible assets and we can fully tokenize that access, we are going to provide access to much more people to investment in assets. And what that means? That means for me, what is the most important point about what blockchain can bring to the financial system? That is inclusion. I mean, it's inclusion. We are speaking about banking the unbanked. People who does not have access to a bank account or who does not have access to the financial tools. And that is, for me, from the point of view of Big Innovation Center, is in developing countries the biggest game changing that blockchain can bring. But for that, we need regulations. I mean, and the problem we are seeing now, as mentioned before, we have European Union with a proposal of regulation, United Kingdom with their own proposal, United States with their own proposal of regulation. And the problem is we are getting this approach where we are going to get in silo regulations to regulate a global technology. I mean, we need a multi-stakeholder approach without any gap
Yeah,
It's
that's
a
what
global economy. We need a global regulation for that, And as well, we need to overcome another barriers. For example, here in United Kingdom, it's quite difficult for a crypto business to open a single
yeah.
bank
Yes,
account.
yes,
A single bank
Fernando,
account
we
because they
understand.
are working in the crypto
Yeah,
business.
absolutely. I think, yeah, we have
Just
noted your points. Yes, yeah.
just my last point in terms of even another barriers. For example, here in terms of marketing, a decentralized finance company cannot put an ad on GAFA. I mean Google, Amazon, Facebook, Google, Amazon, or Facebook. They cannot put a single ad. Then we have to remove some barriers if we want to that. In terms of governance, as you mentioned, we need a global governance for that. I think having global technologies, we need global governance. Otherwise, we can remove the intermediaries and create big intermediaries like it happens at the beginning of internet.
No, we appreciate. I think the opening remarks by both of you, Vikrant and Fernando, has given a thought-provoking insights of what the opportunity is all about and what kind of challenges that we will need to really address further are going to be addressed. I think moving forward, continuing our webinar, I think we will just next go to the little more technology-related specific point next. Then we will answer as many questions as possible from the participants also, so that it will be more interactive. So now I would like to really ask Anuj, having been in the technology space and then you've been an innovator in the blockchain and conducting the research and development at IBM Labs. Uh, Exploring the opportunities provided by the blockchain to the financial institutions to function them effectively, how far this is going to be a reality and how far it is going to be achieved. This is for you, Anuj. Then I request Vikrant to also comment on that because he has handled many operations of financial institutions. Yes, Mr. Anuj.
Yeah, thank you, Jasser, and thank you for giving me this opportunity once again. So, as we all of us are rightly seeing now, blockchain technology is making a lot of impact in the financial sector. And one of the reason is that it started with financial sector. Bitcoin was the first application that even came before the term blockchain. And it has proved over the years that how a decentralized currency can operate without any intermediaries or bank. Okay, so what you need in terms of why do we have a financial institute operating in the way they are operating today? Because when you talk about an asset and when you talk about a transferring of an asset from one place to another place, you generally talk about trust and transparency. And because most of these transactions are done on internet, the trust and transparency is the factor that gets missing. Blockchain from the technology perspective bring all these things together and make sure that in your transactions, in your financial transactions, you can have trust and transparency. Some of the key technologies behind, if you talk about from the technology aspect, it has a end-to-end cryptography. So all your transactions and all your invocations are encrypted through the world-class encryption. Okay, it uses a concept of digital signature where you incorporate hashing and you store all your ledger in a along with its digital signature so that nobody can modify and tamper it. There is no way you can delete any previous transaction, and there is no way you can temper any transaction. The database or the data of all your transactions is not in control of any central authority. It's distributed across multiple nodes, and therefore it is very, very difficult to do any kind of a manipulation with the data. One of the important technology aspect, as I think Vikrant also mentioned, is the introduction of a smart contract. That started coming in 2015-16 onwards. Now, this is a smart contract, or we call it as mini robots. These programs allow us to write the transactions in such a manner that we can apply the business rules on top of the transaction. So it's not only that we are transferring currency from one place to another. In case we are doing end-to-end loan management, we can check various conditions. What is the credit score of a person? How much amount can be transferred? What is time frame under which the money should be returned? All those things can be codified using smart contracts. Okay, so these are the technology backbones of the blockchain technology, and when you combine all these technologies together, it gives you a ecosystem where your financial transactions can be easily accomplished using the technology rather than the manually doing it by a set of intermediaries that can obviously bring corruption, inefficiency into the system. And therefore we are seeing this revolution where if you see the decentralized finance market last year, in last year February it was $1 billion market. By now it has grown to $21 billion, 20x growth within a year of one span, and that's only for the finance sector. And that's primarily based only on Ethereum. Not many blockchains have even started working on that, and it is expected to grow with the rate of 40 times this year alone. So the market is bang on with this blockchain approach of things, and one of the reason is that it has seen the success of Bitcoin and Ethereum. You can see the price of Bitcoin today reaching out to $40,000, and so people have started having faith and trust. So even PayPal has recently integrated the transactions that can allow you to pay in the Bitcoins. Similarly, even in India, you will see that RBI is coming up with an innovation cell that is evaluating how we can use cryptocurrencies in day-to-day operations within India. So I think in the near future, just like Japan and Dubai, which are having their own cryptocurrencies introduced now, India will also have a crypto rupee in the times to come, and we shall all be able to transact in the cryptocurrencies where everything will be there in our own wallet or mobile wallet rather than carrying out our physical wallets as we do today. So the opportunity market is huge.
No, absolutely, Anuj. I'm with you because you are in the helm of the technology adaptation and exploration of blockchain as a framework. But this brings in very interesting topics, which we will discuss during this session as possible. Tokenization is one aspect which I would like to really touch upon with you because you are being a technologist, and how tokenization is going to really play its role in accelerating the transactional process on the financial sector. That is one. And second thing, what my observation as central banks are going to really go digital currencies. I think this is going to be an interesting topic to talk to Vikrant also. We all have seen how China is playing out, their own digital currencies. Probably, I think we will take it on as we move ahead. So thank you, Anuj, for your insightfulness on the technology. Now, Vikrant, the same thing I ask you, your points. Exploring the opportunities provided by the blockchain to the financial institutions to function them effectively. How far that is practicable and possible, please. 5 minutes. Then we can, I think there are a lot of curious questions posed by people. So I think we will answer today as much as possible. Yes, Vikrant.
Sure. Well, just to take you from what Anuj has mentioned, the underlying principles and the underlying value that we derive out of blockchain are actually the drivers for the use cases in the banking segment. So, for example, whenever we are in need of a transparency, we can safely go to blockchain. Now, if I were to give a logical example of it, one would be syndication. Now, in loan syndication, we all know that there is one lead bank which has all the information, and the information needs to be disseminated to all the other participants in it. But at the same time, there is lack of transparency. Everybody doesn't have the 360-degree view of the customer. They don't have a relationship with the customer. They may not be knowing things. But with the use of blockchain, what now that happens is there is a single source of truth on a distributed ledger. Nobody can tamper any aspect of it, and you are able to view. All of the people are simultaneously able to view everything. Now, for example, if a stock statement is submitted by, say, Reliance or Jio or say Tata, then at that point in time, the moment it is received at the lead bank, everybody is going to have a view of it simultaneously, instantaneously. So this brings in a lot of transparency, lots of trust into it, and it eliminates all the inefficiencies that are normally there in it. The another example I would like to give you is now when we were talking about digital currency. Now look at a scenario where now look, when we are making such a good progress on the road, and now with Mr. Gadkari at the helm, we all know that when they are talking about a 15-kilometer target of road completion per day, the payments are being by way of photographs being taken and a geotagging being done and submissions to the government. Now, so while the government has tried to improve efficiencies here, what can happen with the basics of smart contract is the moment those objectives or those obligations are met, which would mean the immediate payment would happen to the customers, to the contractor's account. And now look at a scenario where bank has funded the huge infrastructure projects, and we have to have an escrow account. You need to keep monitoring, you need to keep chasing. Now with a smart contract being in place, all of this is going to be seamlessly being happening at the instant. So the moment the person uploads his the status of a road, the government will be bound to make a payment, and the payment would directly hit the account of the customer in his bank account for his loan repayment. And therefore all of these inefficiencies which currently are hindering banks from going aggressive is something that will happen. I'll give you another example when we are talking about online shopping that is happening out here. Now, we are not able to create bespoke customer offerings based on the inefficiencies that we currently have today. But look at a scenario where, depending on the customer score, banks would also be able to pre-approve a credit line for any purchases that would happen on Amazon. Today, it is a reactive thing that we are trying to do. A person looks out for something, and then the bank tries to pitch in for a funding. Now we'll be able to do reverse with blockchain. We'll be able to give him a pre-approved fund which can be utilized, and we will have a complete control on the end use of funds. So as a bankers, what we are otherwise very cautious and concerned about the end use of funds, about transparency, about the money coming in time, the repayment coming in time, people trying to chase government contracts and other things. All of these inefficiencies get nullified just by the use of this technology. And Anuj made a very significant point. Banks are important today to the extent of the trust they are able to exhibit in the minds of the customer. And today, with the cyber attacks and a lot of unscrupulous practices happening around everywhere in the world, cryptocurrencies definitely would be the way forward, and therefore our central banks have also started looking at it. In fact, the RBI innovation hub that they are trying to set up, they are looking out for a CEO. Plus, they have also set up a working group on trying to see how digital lending can be regulated in India currently. So a lot of lot of traction happening even at the regulator's end. Another important aspect would be for the regulator to regulate all the regulated entities. So a time would come when possibly they would be just linking the core banking databases of all the banks, and they would be able to have all the information at that point in time, at the instance when it is actually transacted at those respective things. So you look at the anti-money laundering use case, you look at the regulatory use case, you look at the infrastructure financing, the retail financing, all of these aspects. So the entire aspects of banking, the touch points are actually great use cases that would be there. Not ignoring the upsell and cross-sell, insurance, the mediclaims that are happening, the entire gamut of it.
Oh, appreciate.
I mean, very interesting, and I can go on and on.
No, we understand. So what we do is we'll just conduct the poll for the participants for their reaction to understand. In fact, I missed out another poll question in the first place. So my apologies for all of you. Now we will just break for about 45 seconds to run the poll. Dave, can you run the second poll, please? Very interesting. Most of our participants are saying that blockchain could bring in transparency, as like the experts are always discussing, and traceability and auditability are the next two best points. Very surprisingly, they think security is embedded in the blockchain. Thank you. Yeah, it's very interesting. Everybody is in the opinion security is probably, I think, embedded in the blockchain platform. Anuj, I think we need to really go back at a later point of time. What is 256, bit encryption, or how blockchain could be
Yes, sir.
created? It's very interesting. I think, that's also a very interesting point. So now, I may request to really move on further before we head on to the next point of discussion for today. Is that all right for all of you? Yeah. Well, as the conversations till now are very, enumerating and enlightening to all of us who are non-blockchain unknown people. But I think what the general consensus to know more, will this blockchain, especially Fernando is at the helm of BIC UK, probably I'm not really shooting directly to Fernando, but then this is more aimed to Fernando and coming to Anuj as a technologist. Then I will request Vikrant to moderate. Will blockchain, the so-called underpinning technology that is changing the face of global trade?
Okay, shall I start then?
Yeah, please, Fernando.
Thank you very much, Jay. Stop me because I can speak on this topic for hours if at some point. Short and clear, yes. Yes, I think blockchain going to revolutionize the international trade. Some of the currently we have the international trade. If you analyze an international trade, it's a really inefficient system. I mean, with a lot of middlemen that don't add any value to the system, a lot of waiting times, a lot of cost in intermediaries, a lot of friction, basically. But let's try to understand this, why we have that frictions and when to have that inefficiencies on the global trade, and how blockchain can help to solve this. Basically, what is global trade? Basically, global trade is, we have to understand global trade as a global supply chain. I mean, it's a supply chain where we have many actors to manufacture something here in the UK and send it to India, China, or Japan, or in another way around. In this global trade, or in this supply chain, there are many actors. We have producers, we have intermediaries, we have logistic providers, we have customs, we have governments, we have revenues agencies from the governments. We have thousands of actors. Then that is a supply chain. Then let's try to understand then what is a supply chain. Basically, a supply chain, we have to understand supply chain as an integrated system of physical flows where we move the goods, information flows where we move data, information about invoices, about delivery notes, about tracking system, wherever is information or properties of the products, and a financial flow. What is the payment? Usually, what activate the financial flow? The financial flow would be initiated with the information flow. We need some information to do a payment. We need a delivery note, we need an invoice, or we need something to do a pay. And the physical flow is the product itself, the product of the services. Then, since we have globalization, taking account that the base of these supply chains is the information flow, we have globalization, we have some shocking data. For example, from 95 to 2007, the transnational companies have moved from 30,000 to 79,000, just double in 10 years. We have subsidiaries from 200,000 to 800,000 in 10 years. That means the supply chains and the global trade have spread all over the globe. You know, our shares, this share, it might manufacturing in Bangladesh, you know, and selling here in London. We have the global supply. The amount of information we have at the moment, and we have to deal with, is huge. And we are dealing with that in all systems. Basically, we are creating silos through the supply chain. No, each company has their own data, their own version of the product. I mean, and the problem is that version sometimes didn't match or doesn't match between companies. Then what is going to bring blockchain? Blockchain, the current systems doesn't work. I mean, the current system doesn't work. It's slow. There are a lot of middlemen that, if you analyze from a supply chain perspective, how much value a middleman adds to this shared, it might is nothing, because they are information. Well, blockchain, distributed database, we are going to create the same version of the truth for all the supply chain, from the producer to the retailer here, or the retailer there. That is gonna be a chain maker. I mean, for example, in the container industry, if you Mars and IBM set up a joint venture, it's called Train Lanes. For sure, and you will speak after me and will present this solution. But just a small date. Bringing a container from China to United Kingdom needs 80 stamps, 80 pieces of paper stamp. Just we can bring that onto a blockchain and create a seamless transaction. I mean, we can reduce the friction on the system, and most important, create the only single version. This is one of the applications, trade lanes. I think Aknur will speak much more than me about trade lanes. This is our containers. There is an opportunity in international trade. There is an opportunity. The problem we have now with these huge information flows is most of the companies doesn't have visibility and doesn't have traceability of their own supply chains. I mean, I would like to bring to your attention, it was, I think, in 2013, a disaster happens. It's called the Rana Plaza disaster, where a factory completely collapsed. Large retail companies like Inditex, what is Zara, H&M, spent 2 weeks to find out if some of their clothes were manufactured in that factory.
Correct.
They didn't know at all, because there is no traceability, there is no visibility of the supply chain. What is bringing this is bringing some concerns to the end customer, people like us. When we buy a share, sometimes people ask where this share has been manufactured, and it has been manufactured in the right way with the right rights for the workers. No, and what blockchain can bring is to bring that to the system. I mean, we see another application. I'm going to explain the different impacts. I'm going to bring some application. In this case, it's Everledger. Everledger have created a blockchain system where they put diamonds. I mean, to prove that diamonds is a legal diamond from a legal mine exploitation, and you could see on your screen, on your mobile phone, the whole history of the What also bring blockchain technology is smart contracts. I mean, I think it's quite important, a smart contract. No, a piece of software pre-code, when some events happens, the software executes itself and allows a transactions, allow a payments. What it's going to bring, of course, is going to bring speed and efficiency to the system that now sometimes are slow, are inefficiencies, and are not transparent. This case, example for this case, the letter of credit in the banking sector. No, I mean, we have seen 2 years ago a proof of concept with Banco Santander and a Chilean fishing company with a credit of letter moving fish from Chile to Israel. I mean, usually a credit of letter, you spend between 10 to 15 days to get paid after everything is complete. I mean, after you have delivered your goods, you spend like 10 to 15 days. The bank see the documentation, approve the documentation. The previous bank approved the documentation, the certification company approved, reduced to seconds.
Yeah, good.
All of the people have the same version.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you are spot on, Fernando. You've been in the research for the UK government and the European community. So we appreciate to really have your views in the coming months also to really throw up the challenging use cases which are going to be much more beneficial for the society to solve complex problems. So I just before I go to Anuj here, there's one of the participant has mentioned a very interesting thing. He said the concept what Fernando is talking is being used to export Indian grapes to European Union. But the blockchain approach will certainly enhance the food security, transaction, and traceability. I think this approach would have a bigger application in the global trade. This is from one Mr. Sudhakar Sen. I think it's a very well recognized point. Food security, is much more, faster to transact, and trade links. Anyway, now I think Anuj, as you mentioned, Fernando, Anuj will touch upon the trade links and then minimizing, collapsing the bureaucratic process of crossing the borders and translating the perishables also. I think, Anuj, this is the reason why I brought this point, which is raised by one of the participants. Please go ahead. Thank you, Fernando.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jay.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. So, if you see the practical applications of blockchain, so there are two broad categories in which we can divide them. One is for the public blockchain, where we have talked about decentralized finance, where everyone can use the system and basically bring trust and transparency into the system. The second prominent application is in the private blockchain area, where the businesses can get benefit from the blockchain technology. And there, if you see the problem, you will not find a trust problem because the systems are still working, right? But there is a huge problem of data reconciliation at the real time. And the data reconciliation with the consensus of all the parties, because there are way too many parties having different kind of a governance systems. So, when you talk about the global trade, which is done among multiple business partners, and today the entire economy has gone global. Everyone is doing a trade with every country. It is becoming very, very difficult to bring efficiency into the global trade systems. And the product that Fernando mentioned, TradeLens, is one of the product from IBM, which they have developed in partnership with Maersk, which is one of the greatest ocean goods carrier. The estimate is that if you see the global trade market today is $16 trillion market, and the cost of enabling this trade is $1.8 trillion. Okay, so it's more than 10% is what we spend on basically doing these trades. Okay. And the reason is that say for example, how many parties can you think about? When you do some kind of a trade, you can have a port operator, you can have an ocean carrier, you have government authorities, you have inland transport authorities, you have shipping cargo owners, you have freight forwarders, you have financial services. You have many players maintaining their own ledgers, maintaining their own applications, maintaining their own data. And they only update it as and when they receive the transaction coming their way. Okay, so just imagine a system where everyone is having a single source of truth written in consensus with most of the parties. Okay, and then they can clearly see what pipeline is coming their way, what is the expected timeline to complete, where is the delay, where is the bottleneck which is happening, and that will at least bring 20 to 30% efficiencies into the current modern global trade system. Okay, so and this blockchain technology is an enabler, and TradeLens is already experiencing those kind of benefits. IBM is banking hugely on this solution, and expecting many more global trade organizations to join this product. The second thing that you talked about, the food security, again there is a product called Food Trust, which is again one of the legacy blockchain product from IBM. and that is developed in partnership with Walmart. And if you go to any store in US and pick up a mango there, and just to scan its barcode, you can see the entire history of that mango. In India you can't imagine seeing it, because people will not care, but in a Western world people do care. So from where it is coming from, under what conditions it is brought, which fertilizer is given to that particular food. And food contamination is again one of the major world's problem. We don't realize how many people die because of the contaminated food, and then we don't know the source from where it is coming from.
Sure.
So
No,
yes.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's very apt. Food security is going to really play a significant role, and not only collapsing the bureaucracy and time, but also to really bring in the transparency, traceability, because tracing the source farm to whichever they store, it could be very good. I think, yeah, there are so many questions today. I think I cannot really, Vikrant, I think I request you to have your views on the, will the blockchain, the underpinning technology, okay, is going to really changing the face of global trade. Please, quickly, 5 minutes, then we will have a poll session, then we will take the question answer sessions. I think.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Jay. Jay, I would like to bring on a different perspective to this entire discussion. Now we've been talking about technology being and we have been talking about global trade. I will try to give a use case of a SME or a MSME manufacturer in India, how blockchain is actually going to help him. Now let us take an example of a engineering company which is actually doing a machining, and say they are supplying it to, say, Alfa Laval in Denmark or Sweden. Now traceability may not be an issue in India today, but for them to be a global supplier, they need to have a traceability certification to place. So for that matter, let's say this company called Sri Engineering Associates, they have to get ore from X. They have to get a mold which done from some foundry in say Rajkot, and then it has to come to Pune for machining of it as per the specifications given for a component which is to be used in some underwater seal, or some Antarctica, some project where Alfa Laval is working. And therefore Alfa Laval needs a complete traceability of where the origination was sourced, right from where this machining came in, or in which foundry this was actually molded, and they need to have that traceability. Now today an Indian MSME, to put in this traceability certifications and a value chain in place, they have to spend lots and millions of rupees out there just to maintain that traceability, so that they are compliant to export in Europe. Now this is one part of the problem. The second part of the problem is they are not sure when this would reach them, when the shipment has actually reached them, and when the money would come in. Now even if the money has been sent by, say, Alfa Laval Denmark, what happens then is it comes to his bank in India, and then now RBI has put in a new sort of a rule that unless your EDPMS and IDPMS system is updated, the payment should not be released, and the reconciliation is, the onus of reconciliation on the banks. So now the banker says, okay, we have received some amount of funds, some euros in your account, but you need to give me a copy of your challan, copy of invoice, copy of your shipping, copy of your bill of lading, all of those documents, and the export credit guarantees and things that you have put in, and you have to set it off against each of those invoices. Only then the payment would be released to your account. And the person would lose around 30 to 45 days in complying with these things. Now with the use of blockchain, what would happen is this Sri Engineering Associate need not worry about the overall traceability part of it. That's embedded in the system. So that is something which he can rest in peace, and he need not spend time and money on it. Plus the working cycle of 45 days gets reduced almost instantaneously to the money. The moment the money has been sent from Europe, it would reach his bank account, because all other things would just be the byproducts as a part of the overall underpinning technology that is being used. So it doesn't not only helps him in reducing his overall credit cycle, it also reduces his efforts, the duplication, the paperwork, and most importantly, the costs that are involved in this can be eliminated at least by 30 to 40%, and then we can think of competing with China. Yeah, so that is a benefit that a small MSME customer would get, and I thought I would bring in this perspective rather than from the global trade or trillion-dollar economies and other things. What is in it for me? That is what the customer would want to know.
We appreciate. I think every faculty of the business is the key enabler to the economy, country like us. So I fully agree. Only being in technology, all of us. What happens to the era of ERPs and homegrown applications, and what happens when mergers and acquisitions happen? How this continuum of adaptation of blockchain can survive? Anuj, and then to Vikrant, before we close to the poll session and take on the question answer session. What happens if a company is acquired or merged and who do not really have that platform, and then if they are using a different enterprise resource planning product, how those challenges, technological challenges, which are beyond the control of the enterprise alone?
Yeah. So first of all, there are various blockchain applications that are integrated with the conventional applications in the modern world. So blockchain is not something that will completely change the legacy application. So it has the capability, especially the permission blockchains like Hyperledger Fabric, Coda, even Ethereum. We call the external applications as oracles. So they have the capabilities to integrate with the existing applications via APIs. So they can exchange information, they can write to the conventional system, they can read from the conventional systems. So that is one aspect of it. Second, if there are different organizations which are using different set of blockchains, there are interoperability technologies which are also available. We call them as side chains, by which we can even connect two or more different blockchains together. Even if you ask from a technology perspective, there are concepts like channels in which we can segregate the data of different organizations and still keep them as a part of one single unified blockchain architecture. So it's not that the blockchain technology will work in complete isolation and the remaining ones are completely isolated. We have the integration points where we can integrate. So if you are acquiring a company, if you are integrating, or if you are merging with any other company, you always have provisions to basically integrate your systems. And then maybe if slowly, if need required, we can migrate to the blockchain-based systems for the legacy applications as well. So that was the first part of it. Yeah.
No. Yeah, that's good. I think, yeah, that is one which I thought could be able to enumerate and then explain. This is not going to be an isolated application which need to be deployable. This is an integrated, technology enabler.
Yes.
Okay, gentlemen. Then we will go to the third poll question now, and after 1 minute, we will take on the question answer session. We are running out of time because there are very many interesting questions for all of you three erudite panelists. Okay, the third poll question, Dave. So most of the participants are, the majority said, yes, I think this is going to disrupt the banking, supply chain and healthcare industries. And yeah, very many are sitting on the fence to watch and see. It might be too early to tell. That is true, especially like India. I think 26% are justified. And very interestingly, yeah, 16% of the participants say that it might not really affect. Okay, very interesting. Okay, let's move on. Before, we go on to the question answer sessions. Can we just also announce BIC India's so that the experts will have 1 minute breather before we take on the question answer session? Can we have the presentation, please? Dear all the participants, we would like to really just to inform you that Big Innovation Center India is open for its membership program. For the first of its offering, we have partnered with Ernst & Young in India to offer emerging technology relevant programs, which are both instructor led as well as online learning programs. So whoever all keen may able to really be in touch with us. And this is our upcoming first program with Ernst & Young in India, which is specifically on the cyber security program, which consists of 3 programs, 3 courses. The certificate program in ethical hacking, certificate program in penetration testing, and the third course is certificate program in business analytics. Well, any of the course that you can able to offer, it is going to be instructor-led program. And maybe we are also launching our Big Innovation Center own exchange called Pavilion. This is a knowledge exchange that we have developed for our operations in India and UK. And all of you are requested to enroll yourself and become a freemium member into the portal, so that you will able to access global insights of the emerging technology reports and insights along with white papers. So I request all of you to really enroll and be alerted with the updates that happens both in BIC UK and in India. Thank you very much. And so now, we have run short of time, but we have still 20 minutes. So I have many questions which have come to us, and I'll try to cover as much as possible. Hope that will be okay with all the 3 panelists. See, I think this is from Chitkara University. I think Mr. Sanjeev Sahani, Vice President, has written, what is your message to the young aspiring students to prepare in advance with the quintessential skill sets to have an exceptional core competencies and prowess or expertise in the space and ecosystem of blockchain? So Anuj, I think I may request you, because you're also a part of training and development for IBM. So may I request you? Then I have a point to really also to talk to Sanjeev. Please, Anuj.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So first of all, the blockchain market or the blockchain job market is booming, especially since last 2 years. If you see the LinkedIn reports, so there has been exponential growth, and it says even to an extent that each blockchain developer has as many as 6 jobs in hand as of now. And so for the students, I think if they want to start a career in blockchain technology, they should if you are from a technical background, or if you are doing a BTech or MCA, then you should target a blockchain developer job. And a blockchain developer job can be a backend developer job or a full stack developer. So you can be a smart contract programmer, where you can target to learn at least one blockchain platform. Now, I think Ethereum will be the easiest choice to begin with, and then followed by Coda, Quorum, Hyperledger Fabric, etc. If you can get some certifications around being a blockchain developer, that should actually bring a lot of value to your resume. And if you can showcase some of the applications that you have developed or some of the internships that you have done in that area, I think getting a job and getting a good job, if you compare with other technologies, will be much better. If you are from a management background, then moving into a direction of becoming a blockchain consultant is specific to the industry which you are targeting in your management program can really help you. So we talked about finance sector. So only the technologist cannot run the blockchain innovations in the financial sector. The ideas has to come from the finance industry itself. So you can target to become a blockchain project manager, blockchain consultant, and many more job options if you are from a management background. So a lot of opportunities. Yeah, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Anuj. So, in quest of the time, I might need to really ask specific questions to each individual panelist. Sorry about it, because we have many questions. So now, this is for Vikrant. Today RBI has not given any regulatory compliance to crypto. How long it will take for them to define regulations for crypto? And what if the need for the banks if we have digital Indian rupee?
Okay, I think RBI is already working. They have already constituted a working group to work and have some regulation around cryptocurrencies. That's one part. So I think it's only a matter of time when we would be able to have it, because if you see, even in our finance budget, last finance budget, the finance minister has actually announced that they would be launching cryptocurrency and the government payments would be made through cryptocurrency. So that there's already a traction on that, and there is a Indian blockchain ecosystem which is being developed. IDRBT, Rabbit, which is the subsidiary of RBI for technology, and now the RBI Innovation Center. They have already created a sandbox, and there's a lot of work that is happening in the background. It's a matter of time when the regulations would come around, and I think it would still be a few years from now before all of the banks would come up on the blockchain or the cryptocurrency platform. So it would be in a phased manner that we would be seeing it.
Yeah. Okay. Another supplementary question to you itself, because more and more people are bankers, looks like, so they like Vikrant very much. So Fernando, next will be yours. So what do you feel that the existing monopolies of the banks will be ready to switch to blockchain given that they lose their monopoly? This is from Mr. Deshmukh.
I think bankers don't have choice. Well, I think as it is, bankers don't have a choice for that. They need to either need to change or they need to perish.
I see.
That's the only option.
I see changed Vikrant now. So you say that
I mean,
yes,
Fernando. I don't think they are prepared now. I mean, they are in the process too. But what is clear is that financial institutions, banks, central banks should join the revolution. I mean, they have to find a way to add value in all of this. I mean, they are starting to understand the applications, the benefits, and the risks of blockchain technology. In terms of central banks, we have seen initiatives in China, US Central Bank, Bank of England. In terms of banks in Europe, Banco Santander, a couple of banks here in the UK. But they should focus on adding value to the financial supply chain. They are what I say is they are in front of a huge opportunity to upgrade a lot of very slow and efficient current systems. In the future, open and accessible platforms will be the standard. Then they should join. I mean, they don't have, there is no option, I think. I mean, I don't know if the rest of the panelists agree with me. I don't know if they are prepared or not. They are not prepared. They are willing, they are not willing, but they have to.
Yeah, see, Fernando, we are an open innovation center. So we want to have everybody's viewpoint. So that's a good. Yeah, following up the next question to Anuj, I think this is, how is IOTA looked at a next gen for the blockchain? Yes, sorry, Vikrant, you are saying something?
I was just about to mention, and I wanted to include Anuj in it. And correct me if I'm wrong, Anuj, but now, like a cloud, you also have a private and a public blockchain. And therefore, once a regulator puts in a blockchain for as a regulator for the entire thing, I would like to give a small example of the positive confirmations that are required for a check amount over a certain amount, which was launched by RBI last week. Now, it is not an option for banks whether do they want to join in or not. It's a dictum that they would need to follow. And if you are able to have a blockchain and a public blockchain, and you are having an interpretability onto it, then I think that is the key. And what is not, it is not expected that each bank need to have their own applications. What we are is a full system that gets created, and there are the private components of it which gets embedded into it. Anuj, sorry if I'm not a technical person, so if you would want to elaborate on this aspect, I think that would give much more clarity to participants out there.
No, absolutely. I think so. There are three categories of blockchains that we see today. One is a public blockchain, private blockchain, and consortium. So banking industry primarily deals about the consortium blockchain, where the banks collaborate together, the insurance companies comes into the picture, the loan companies come into the picture, the trade companies come into the picture, and they all work together as a consortium to basically exchange the values through the blockchain technology. And what should remain private still remains a private, and what should go to the public goes to the public. So there is that kind of a distinguish also available in the permission blockchain ecosystem that we have today. So not everything, so although we have a distributed ledger where all the transactions are registered, but not everything can be disclosed to everyone, because of the competitiveness of the business. So that kind of a provision, that kind of a things are also incorporated in the modern blockchain systems that we have. So absolutely, Vikrant, I do agree, and that's correct.
Yeah, good. At least reinforcing all three of you. And this is for you, Anuj. How is Iota looked at as a next-gen blockchain?
Yeah. So within the blockchain itself, there are more and more innovations that are coming up, because blockchain is a niche technology. So one, blockchain is a very strong integration with IoT, AI, and cloud. Okay, because most of the blockchain services currently run as a microservices, so they are well integrated with the cloud ecosystem. All the examples that we have talked, like for example, we talked about the food traceability. It cannot be achieved without having the sensors on various devices and tracking the sensor information on the blockchain. IoT is part of blockchain. And then, when you have this much data with you, obviously what you will do with it, you will apply some kind of a data science and AI analytics on top of it to generate some business value, right? So first of all these technologies are integrated together in a very strong manner. Then, talking specifically about Iota and some of the upcoming blockchain implementations. So what these people are doing is they are integrating some new features which can bring optimization into the blockchain ecosystem, because some people think that blockchain is an ever growing list of transactions, so it might actually delay the transaction speed. So there are newer protocols coming up by which you can still maintain the transactions per second in line with the current modern systems that we have in place. So there are a lot of new innovations that are coming within blockchain industry to increase the speed, to make it scalable with the current system, and to integrate with the third-party system. Iota is also one of those attempts, and I think it has a strong market value in the times to come.
Probably, I think Srinivas must have been, having the insights. I think this is Srinivas has asked about it, and Arnav is having many questions, which will come to it. One question from Mr. Shenoy. This is a very different sector. Blockchain holds a lot of promises for healthcare. If implemented, understood in India, cost of healthcare will definitely come down in a meaningful way. This is open to all the panelists. Maybe through technology, Anuj, you can able to really start with, and we will understand Fernando to enumerate our use cases of healthcare sector in UK. Then Vikrant substantiates it.
I think I'll take just 1 minute. So the medical industry has grown many leaps when it comes to the innovation in the medical industry, but they have not really adopted the technology or the IT technology in their ecosystems as yet. So there are horizontal innovations, but there is a lack of vertical innovations. Still, you see doctors giving the prescription on the paper, and they are getting the medicine on the counters. So blockchain brings this ability of creating a digital health record for each individual, and that's the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Modi also, giving a health card to every Indian, where his entire medical history can be brought into one single place, undisputable, unchallengeable, so that if you go to some other medical institute tomorrow, they'll not ask you to do all the tests. They will have a one single trail of information that everybody can trust. Your insurances can be given based on that. Your claims can be done based on that. The research, the amount the research companies invest in the medical domain in order to get the authentic data from the patients and build some kind of a medicines around that. The recent example being COVID-19 can be automated through this digital health record ecosystem, where you can create a trusted health record for each and every individual. That can also give you the health card of your nation, your state, your city, your country. Many applications, I can speak many hours about it, but yes, I think I'll hand it over to Fernando.
Yeah, Fernando. Yes,
thank you very much. What we are seeing, could you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry,
yes.
sorry. I thought I was mute. Yes, I mean, following Anut's points, I consider that the blockchain use on the healthcare industry is brutal. No, I mean, have a lot of potential. Even what we consider healthcare, no, because even your smart devices, those wearable devices, this smartwatch we wear, that is also health data, no. I mean, if your doctor have access, how many steps you get a day, how is your movement, also that is health data. The problem is the integration all of this data, no. We have this data in silos. I mean, if we are able to use blockchain and just get a single version of the data and just one version of the medical records for everyone would be great. Problem, GDPR here in Europe, I mean, the problem is regulations, data privacy, and willing to collaborate between the different actors in the healthcare sector. We have came across here to a couple of use cases, health records in a distributed way where everyone have access with your private key. I mean, there is a kind of protection to see your data. But due to privacy reasons and GDPR reasons now at the moment, and due to the regulations, is not something we are going to see soon in the market. What we are seeing, although, for example, is for doctors. Doctors in this country, every time they move from one hospital to another hospital, they have to go through all the checks again, all the paperwork, qualification, professional qualifications, education, professional education, a number of years working. They have to check. This takes to onboard a doctor in a hospital. What is next road takes around 1 week.
Correct.
Now there are some applications, they are trying to put all the doctor records, certification, education, and everything in one single distributed database to move doctors just in the day. Because now the system needs, even with challenge like we have now, this huge pandemic, where we have to move doctors quickly from one hospital to another.
Very good. Yeah, that's a very applicable use case even in India. I think, no doctor would be unhappy other than their prescriptions or bills to be monitored, but their professional credentials can be blockchained. I think that's a very good use case, possibly. I think Mr. Shenoy will agree, and we will be in continuum of discussions of similar nature. Vikrant, the last words from you before we end up, because it's already up time. Yes, Vikrant.
So I would categorize this into two aspects. One is proactive healthcare and a reactive healthcare. So a lot of things can be done in the reactive healthcare when you fall sick and then you have claims and things. But when I'm talking about proactive, and as a banker, as an insurance professional, what I would be thinking is, with the use of blockchain, let's take an example where if I'm able to get an insight on your health actively, I would be able to charge a premium based on your health conditions out there. And if I'm having an insight to that data, that would help me tailor a customized product with a differentiated rate for that individual customer. So I would have that ability if I have insights and access to that data. Now see what has happened to Aadhaar. The moment Aadhaar was introduced, see what innovative products have come into the financial space. What has happened to the Jan Dhan? What has happened to this subsidy transfer? And of course, we have to go through the overall curve wherein we launch Aadhaar, Then we found there were data privacy issues. Then we had to fix those, bring in some more registrations around it, and then we move ahead. And therefore, the same sort of a scenario would happen even in the blockchain space. Look what has happened to the UPI. I mean, today the world is looking at India for the UPI payments and the seamless, frictionless transactions that are happening today out there. So I think, needless to say, yes, definitely the next biggest wave would be in the healthcare segment. And as I said, more so on a proactive basis than on a reactive basis.
No, very good point. Yeah, yes, Fernando.
Just I wanted to bring a point, because I completely agree with you, Vikram, but we have to be a bit careful as well with this technology. I mean, because this technology also brings risk. Now, for me, one of the risks, the first risk is careful with removing the middlemen, small middlemen, and create a big middleman. You know, create a monopoly on where we remove all the small middlemen and we create a big middlemen. And in the terms which you mentioned about the insurance, this is for the mentioned insurance. Careful when we speak about the records and access to the records. Careful if we can reach some point where we only going to go to insurance the health people, and we don't provide insurance to the unhealth people. What is the people who need insurance?
Yeah, see,
No, because this how it's called, this data, when we have access to the data, we can do things like that. I mean, we can have access to this watch. This is my Garmin watch. You know how many Ks I run every day. Say you don't move enough to have an insurance.
See, that's correct. See, every geography. See, the healthcare delivery in India is the responsibility of the citizen. Unlike majority of the matured nations, where state owns the responsibility being healthy. So, state has a burden of healthcare budgets. Now, if we talk about US, it's phenomenal. I don't know the the current situation is going to be so. India, is a different country altogether. We have to fund our healthcare individually. Probably there would be, as Vikrant has rightly said, and you also mentioned, if proactive data is more known to the health insurance companies, maybe the premiums will be lower, and the information to the doctors will be much more available. Could be, I think, very interesting space to look at it. And we take all your suggestions, and then we'll continue. Lastly, Arnav, Mr. Arnav is looks like he's a Hyperledger Fabric private blockchain developer, and it seems he has a lot many great ideas, but don't know where to start. And now BIC is the place to come to. You are at the right place. Please do shout us, and not only all of us, but I'm very serious. I'm talking to you. Please reach out and shout to us. Let's see how and where we can able to support you in your endeavors. I think with that, I have to really conclude today's session with this extremely erudite panelist on the blockchain, and it is overwhelmingly very informative, insightful, and it has enhanced my own knowledge of understanding the blockchain, the way it can be impactful, not only in our financial sectors, but to a large. So I thank you all, and I thank all the participants. And I request all the participants to reach out to any of the panelists to us, and then enroll yourself on our Pavilion application to access the insights of our research and development. Thank you all, and thank you all the panelists, Anuj, Fernando, Vikrant, and all the attendees. Thank you very much. We see you next month, the third week of every month. Probably we request you also to send you what sectors and what specific areas of blockchain implementation that you would like from us to know more about it. We will endeavor to answer and conduct the programs. So please do join us on our pavilion. And thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.